I'm Loretta. Standing here at the waterfront park, watching as the police drag away a man who'd been stalking me for over a year, I feel nothing but a hollow emptiness. It's over, but the fear that had lived inside me for so long is still hard to shake. Let me take you back to how it all started. I'm a freelance graphic designer in San Francisco. 3 years ago, after graduating from art school in New York, I moved here in search of independence and a fresh start. I found a small one-bedroom apartment in the Mission District. It was affordable, and I thought it was safe. My family lives in Palo Alto, about 30 minutes away. My older brother, Ethan, is a detective. He's 32. After our mom passed away when I was in high school, Ethan took on the role of my protector. He's always been overly cautious about my safety. He installed high-tech locks on my door, taught me self-defense, and constantly reminded me to be aware of my surroundings. I used to roll my eyes at his warnings, thinking he was being too overprotective, but I knew he cared. There's also Maya, the owner of my favorite coffee shop, Luna's Coffee. Maya is 31. She has an amazing memory and can remember every regular customer's order. Over the past 2 years, she's become more than just my barista, she's a trusted friend. My life was a routine. Every weekday morning at 8:45, I'd walk 3 blocks from my apartment to Luna's Coffee. Maya would have my medium caramel macchiato ready before I even reached the counter. We'd chat about our weekends, new coffee blends, and the latest city news. It was a comfortable, safe part of my day. About a month ago, things started to get strange. I'd come home to find my door unlocked, even though I was sure I'd locked it. Items in my apartment were moved around. A book on my shelf was in a different place, and a coffee mug I didn't remember using was in the sink. At first, I thought I was just being forgetful. I was working long hours on a big project, barely sleeping, and stressed out. But then, my mail started arriving already opened. It wasn't ripped, but carefully unsealed and resealed. I mentioned it to Ethan one night when he called to check on me. He was immediately concerned and insisted on coming over to do a security check. He went through my entire apartment, checked the locks, and looked for signs of forced entry, but found nothing. He told me to call him if anything else strange happened. I tried to push the worry aside and went back to my normal routine. That Thursday morning, it was raining. I left my apartment at 8:35, locked the door, and walked to Luna's Coffee. When I walked in, Mia gave me a forced smile. She had my coffee ready, as always. But when I looked at the cup, I saw something written in red marker under my name: "Don't go home. Call police." My heart stopped. I stared at those words, thinking it was a mistake or a joke. I looked up at Maya, and for a brief moment, our eyes met. I saw fear in her eyes. Before I could say anything, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Too late. I'm already inside. My hands started shaking. I looked around the coffee shop, suddenly hyper-aware of everyone around me. Maya came over and whispered, "There's a man who's been coming here for the past 3 weeks. He always sits by the window, never drinks his coffee, just watches you. This morning, he left right after you walked in and I heard him on the phone saying it's the day and he's finally getting inside. I think he followed you home before. I think he knows where you live." I was in shock. I asked her what he looked like. She said he was tall, around 6 feet, with blonde hair, always wore a blue windbreaker and black sunglasses, and carried a backpack. He'd left about 5 minutes before I arrived. I immediately called Ethan. He answered on the second ring. I tried to keep my voice steady as I told him what was happening. His tone changed instantly. He told me to stay at the coffee shop, not to leave, and that he was on his way and calling it in. While I waited for Ethan, I got another text from the unknown number. It said, "I can see you're scared. You don't need to be. I've been taking care of you. We're meant to be together." Maya's face turned pale when she saw the message. She said it was serious stalking and that this person was obsessed with me. 7 minutes later, Ethan burst into the coffee shop with his partner, Detective Ramirez. He took my phone and read the messages. Ramirez was already on the radio, calling for backup and requesting units to check my apartment. Ethan asked Maya to describe the man. She repeated what she'd told me. Ethan was angry that she hadn't reported it earlier. Maya said she'd second-guessed herself, not wanting to accuse someone wrongly. The radio crackled with news from the officers at my apartment. They said the doors were locked, no signs of forced entry, and asked for permission to enter. I gave them permission. A few minutes later, the radio crackled again. The officers said they were inside and that I needed to see something. They'd found evidence of habitation. I felt sick. Ethan told me that someone had been living in my apartment. I dropped my coffee cup, and hot liquid spilled on the floor. Ethan and Ramirez drove me to my apartment building, but they wouldn't let me go inside. I sat in the back of the patrol car, watching as police officers and detectives went in and out, carrying evidence bags and taking photos. After 20 minutes, Ethan came back to the car. His face was grim. He said that whoever it was had been in my apartment for at least a week. There was a sleeping bag in my closet, food wrappers behind the couch, and cameras hidden throughout the apartment. They'd also found a laptop with surveillance footage going back months. I felt like the world was spinning. I'd had no idea that someone had been watching me in my most private moments. I leaned out of the car and threw up on the pavement. Detective Olivia Chen, a no-nonsense woman in her late 40s, came out of my building with the laptop in an evidence bag. She introduced herself and said she specialized in stalking cases. She asked me to come to the station to answer some questions. At the police station, I sat in an interview room. Detective Chen asked me a series of questions. Had I noticed anyone following me? Had I received any strange messages before? Had anyone asked unusual questions about my schedule? I answered as best I could, but my mind was in a fog. Then, Chen's phone rang. After listening for a moment, she said, "We have a name." The tech team had accessed the laptop. It was registered to a man named Lucas Reed, 36, a former software engineer who'd been fired from his job 6 months ago for inappropriate behavior towards a female coworker. I'd never heard that name before. Chen showed me a photo of Lucas. I recognized him. He'd been at my apartment building about 2 months ago. I was coming home with groceries, and he was in the lobby. He said he was visiting a friend on the 4th floor and even held the door open for me. Chin said he'd been casing my building, learning the layout to get access. According to the data on his laptop, he'd been obsessed with me for over a year. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was another text from Lucas. This time, it was a photo of my dad walking into a local diner. The message below it said, "If I can't have you, I'll take what you love most." The room erupted into action. Chin grabbed my phone, forwarded the photo to her tech team, and barked orders into her radio. She dispatched officers to my dad's location in Palo Alto. Ethan was on the phone with my dad, but it went to voicemail. He tried again, and finally, my dad answered. I told my dad to stay inside the diner, find a manager, and wait for the police. Detective Chin took the phone and assured my dad that officers were on the way. While Chin was talking to my dad, Ethan pulled me aside. He was pale and scared. He said Lucas was escalating and that we needed to stop him before he hurt someone. Detective Chen then said they'd traced the location of the last text. Lucas was 3 blocks from the police station, watching us. She proposed a plan to use me as bait to draw Lucas out. Ethan was against it, worried about my safety. But I thought about my dad, Maya, and all the other women Lucas might stalk in the future. I knew I had to do it. Chen explained the plan. I'd send Lucas a text saying I wanted to meet and understand why he was doing this. We'd set the meeting at Waterfront Park. I'd be wired with audio and a tracker, and I'd have a panic word. Undercover officers would be positioned everywhere. I sent the text, and Lucas responded quickly, agreeing to meet. An hour later, I was at the park. I saw Lucas before he saw me. He was wearing the blue windbreaker and black sunglasses, looking around. When he spotted me, his face lit up. He walked towards me, saying he was glad I'd come and that we were meant to be together. I tried to keep him talking, asking him why he'd been following me. He said he loved me, that he'd fallen in love with me the first time he saw me at the coffee shop. He'd stolen my keys when I left my bag unattended one day. He'd installed cameras to protect me and learn about me. He thought he was taking care of me. I told him what he'd done was stalking, that it was illegal and not love. His face turned cold. He reached into his jacket pocket and I shouted the panic word, Luna. Immediately, officers appeared from everywhere. Lucas was shocked when he realized he'd been set up. They arrested him as he shouted that he loved me and that we were meant to be together. Lucas was taken into custody. The evidence against him was overwhelming. He pleaded guilty to stalking, burglary, unlawful surveillance, and criminal threatening. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison with mandatory psychiatric evaluation and treatment. I couldn't go back to my old apartment. Even after it was cleared by the police, I was too scared. I moved into a new building with 24-hour security and cameras in every hallway. The nightmares took a long time to fade. I started seeing a therapist who helped me deal with the anxiety and hyper-vigilance. Maya and I remained close. She felt guilty for not speaking up sooner, but I told her she'd saved my life. She started training her staff to watch for signs of stalking and put up resources in the coffee shop about what to do if you feel unsafe. Ethan took what happened to me hard. He blamed himself for not being more vigilant. I told him he couldn't have known. He started teaching self-defense and safety awareness classes to help others. My dad also took a long time to feel safe. We got closer during this ordeal, talking on the phone every day. 8 months after Lucas's sentencing, I started speaking publicly about my experience. I wanted to help others who might be going through similar situations. I talked about trusting your instincts, documenting everything, and reporting concerns. Looking back, I've learned that evil doesn't always look like a monster. It can be an ordinary-looking person who uses the word love to justify their actions. Real love respects boundaries and doesn't involve fear. And I've learned the importance of community, of speaking up when you see something wrong. That simple warning on my coffee cup from Maya saved my life, and it's a reminder that small acts of courage can have a huge impact.